Welcome to another exciting episode of Photoshop Party. Oh, Jeannie, you got the cafe behind you. Cool, I like that one.
I took that, I don't know, 10 years ago, I think.
It's no longer there anymore.
Must have been 10 years ago then, right?
Yeah, I think they demolished it. And one time I thought about having a person dressed up as an old-time waitress and pose her in front of that just for but I never did, so.
Well, we can do a composite. I'll give you the background. You can come up with the waitress.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be fun.
Where is that?
It was right off of Highway 1, just north of, help me out here, Michael.
101 just north of Buellton.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Cool.
yeah.
Yeah. Really cool place. So today we are going to talk about brushes and more brushes. I don't know if we'll get through it all today or not. I am not a brush expert. You need somebody like Sandra Pierce to talk about brushes, especially the mixer brush and the smudge tool. She is like extremely knowledgeable on that. She knows what she's doing. I just kind of make stuff up as I go, and you're all going to believe me, so it's got to be true, right?
Sure.
Just like Facebook. If it's on Facebook, it's true.
Everything. Yeah, exactly.
Oy vey. Yeah, no kidding. People believe it though. Okay, let's go ahead and get into some Photoshop here. And Photoshop, there we go. Hopefully everybody can see my screen.
Yep.
Cool.
Yes.
Nice black screen in front of you.
That is working.
Let me go to B for brush. I'm going to change my brush to just a normal hard edge brush. And you can see my cursor going around very well.
Yep. Yes.
Cool. All right. So things are working good. So we're doing good. Let me get rid of Nick because I don't need the Nick filters today. A couple of things to get started. Resizing a brush. It's super easy to do. A lot of people will go up and go to their brush tool, click on size, and then come back, click on size, come back, and do it like 5 or 6, 7 times. And I'm like cringing when they do this. If you hit the right bracket key, which is 2 keys to the right of P, like in Paul, the right bracket key will make it bigger. The left bracket key will make it smaller. So if you have an eyeball, and you want to make your brush the same size as the eyeball, you just put it over the top of the eyeball and make it the size that you need. If you keep going back and forth, you're wasting time. And for me, time is money, and I don't have a lot of money, and that means I don't have a lot of time. So, so the left bracket key makes it smaller. The right bracket key makes it bigger. Easy peasy, right? Well, let's throw a little monkey wrench in there. I want to actually show you another shortcut, which is on the Mac. It's Control Option on a Mac. You can make it bigger by dragging your mouse or your Wacom left and right. So that makes it bigger and smaller. Drag it to the right, bigger. Drag it to the left, smaller. To make it harder, same thing, except dragging it down makes it hard. Dragging it up makes it a soft edge brush. For the PC, for those that are on the other side of the world, Control, Option, right click, drag. Control, Option, right click, drag, and you can do the same thing. So dragging up and down will do the hardness. Dragging left and right will do the size. So any question on that? You can also right click, bring up the brush dialog box and change your hardness and softness that way too. So a right click will do that. If you don't have a Microsoft mouse on your Mac, then you can hit Control click and it'll bring up the same thing. So not command click, but control click on a Mac. Questions, answers? Moving on. Changing opacity. Go on. Okay, changing opacity. You can go up to the opacity on the top toolbar and drag it left and right till you hit the number that you want. I want 50% opacity. So I'll go up to the top, drag this over 50, 50, oops, 46, 48, 50. Whew. Got it. That's a pain in the tush. You can also hit the drop down arrow right there and drag that as well till you hit 50. Got it. Whew. Or if you want to do 50% opacity, just hit the 5 key. If you want 10% opacity, hit the 1 key. That gives you 10%. If you want 2%, 0.2 will give you 2% opacity up here. Super fast. However, if you have this highlighted and you hit the 9, it'll only do 9. So don't have it highlighted, just hit 9. If you want 100% opacity, hit 0. 1% opacity, 0.1. And how do you get 0% opacity?
Oh.
You can't.
Oh.
You can't
what's
paint.
The point?
You can't paint with 0% opacity.
Yeah, what's the point?
It was a trick question. Sorry,
Yeah.
I had to go there.
I was distracted. I fell for it.
You fell for it, and I'm glad you did. I'm glad somebody did.
Does that work for the number keys also? Or are you talking about the ones up at the top of the keyboard?
Either one should work. So if I hit 5 on my keypad, it'll hit 50%. If I hit 1, 10%, 0 is 100%. So that does work as well.
Thank you.
If you want to change the flow is easy to change the same way, except you hold the shift key down. So if I hold the shift key down and hit 9, the flow goes to 90%. The same thing, hold the shift key down, hit 5, goes to 50%. 0 is 100%. Same thing there. However, if you want to get really confused, turn on your airbrush. And when you hit, let's say 50 or 5 for 50, the flow will change. Wait, what? If the airbrush is clicked on, which is right next to the flow, it changes, the number will change in the flow. If you want to change the opacity, you have to hit shift and then say 7 for 70%. Is that nice and confusing for everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Why'd they do that?
Good question. I don't know.
Yeah.
Why didn't they just leave it the same every time?
Right.
That only makes sense. Okay. If you want to do smoothing on a brush, let me get a brush that will do smoothing. I'm not sure this will. No, that brush won't. Okay, smoothing is now authorized. So if I want to do smoothing, so opacity, I just hit the number. Flow, I hold shift. Smoothing, I hold the option or alt key, hit 5, and it goes to 50%. or 0, Alt 0, and it goes to 100%.
Okay.
Easy peasy.
What does smoothing do?
Smoothing, when you're doing a brush, let me see if I can get, okay, smoothing is turned on, good. Let me turn smoothing down to 0. And when I change, see how I'm painting with the brush, how it looks yucky? Turn smoothing up to 100%, do the same thing, and it smooths out your brush.
Okay, let's see.
Okay. And to the far right, you have what looks like a butterfly. And this is the symmetry tool. It's symmetrical stuff. So let me get a color here. Go to, let's say, go red. 254, 1 and 1. I'm going to turn on my symmetry brush. And I'm going to hit mandala, or I don't know how you pronounce it, but it's the one at the very bottom. Segment count, we'll leave it at 3. That's the default setting. And then as I drag down,
Wow,
pretty cool, huh?
that is.
Hit Z, let's change it to, do it again, let's do 6. Why not? And what I do when I hit that, oh man, when I hit that mandala, bring it back up to 6 again. Click OK. It brings up this little template thing, which shows you the directions that it's going. All I do is hit the escape key and then start painting.
Why do you have to hit the escape key?
If I don't hit the escape key, Command Z, we'll do that again. I'll show you what happens. Let's do 3 because it's default. And I try to paint, it moves the box around.
Oh,
So it basically tells you where you're going to have the box at. So I hit escape now. And you can do all kinds of cool stuff with it. I mean, you can play and just get carried away. Let's do smaller brush. So I hit the left bracket key. Add a color in there just for fun. Let's go to a green. And you can get all kinds of weirded out doing this. You got to smoke your breakfast to get creative.
You work on that.
Yeah. Okay. Get out of that brush. Go to, let's say, radial. Radial symmetry, 5. Hit escape. So if you really get you are now under my control.
you are entering the twilight zone.
Okay. And airbrush. Let's click on the airbrush right there. And I'll make my brush a little bit bigger. And as I drag it, I'm going to put flow and opacity at 100%. Drag it. And nothing really happens. But if I go back to my Wacom tablet, which I have sitting right here, you can see it started off light, and the longer I held it, the darker it got. So if I go really slow, it'll build up. So let's set the flow to say 30%. I'm going to clean my chalkboard. Flows at 30%. And it just keeps building and building and building at the end. So you can see at the end that it got a little bit bigger and a little bit stronger there. Clean the chalkboard one more time and go to B for brush. Clean that to 100%, turn that off. And the difference between a hard edge brush and a soft edge brush. Okay, I have a hard edge brush set at 60 right now. Let's bring it up to like 250. I'm hitting the right bracket key and it's going up in 25 increments. Okay, that was 100% flow, 100% opacity. There's an issue someplace. What? That was weird. Why is it doing that? Take it back down, try it again. There we go. Apparently that was a pressure sensitive brush that was doing that. Okay, that's 250 and that's a hard edge brush. So if I right click on it, hardness is 100%, size 250. Let's take your hardness down to 0. It's still set at 250, but look at the size of the brush. It's a lot smaller. And the reason is when you paint with that, the middle part, I don't know if that's the umbra or penumbra. Tim Meyer talked about that in his class one time and I still don't get it. The inside is really bright and strong. Then you get to the outside where it gets really, really soft. So let's take brush color and go to red. I'm going to make my brush really big. And you can see I'm just barely touching the edge of the green with the giant brush. And you can see that it overlapped
Yeah.
a little bit there. In fact, overlapped a lot. So when you're using this, such as you're erasing with it, you can erase just the part of the edge, or if you're using the masking tools, you can mask off the edge and make it a really soft eraser off of the edge. So that's one of the benefits of using a soft edge brush like that. And clear that. Goodbye. Go back B for brush. And the reason I use shortcut keys is because it saves time. If I'm here painting, let's say I'm painting down here in the bottom right-hand corner, and I want to go to the brush tool, I go all the way across the left, find my brush, click on it, come back over, and work over here again. Well, somebody suggested, hey, I got an idea. Let's put this down here. And so when you're painting over here, you only have to go over here to get your brush. Well, let's say I'm painting on this side. Then I gotta go back over to there.
Oh,
Yeah. Over to the edge, good, go. Command Z for both. And I forgot where I was going with that. Oh well, doesn't matter.
I'd move mine over to the right simply because it's closer to the layers and the other things that I use all the time.
Well, here's what I do. Gone. I don't need it. Marquee tool, M for marquee. Got it.
Go off.
But once you remember the keyboard shortcuts, you don't need it anymore. Tools.
I have a keyboard cover with a lot of them.
Uh-huh. But once you use them a lot, and if you
Yeah.
hang out, if you hover over, it says rectangular marquee tool, M. Lasso tool, L. I mean, after a while, you start memorizing them and you never need it again.
Yes.
But it's there. I guess that's my crutch. It's there if I need it.
Yeah.
So B for brush.
That's to help memorize them. I'm old. It's hard for me to memorize anything.
Let's go to edit, fill, and I'm going to fill with 50% gray just for fun. So it almost, you can't almost see it, but that's okay. With a, let's go with default colors. If you want to change your colors to default colors, hit D for default. D for default. Makes it easy. And if you want to exchange the colors, you can go to this little teeny tiny arrow right above the colors and click on that to switch the foreground and background colors, or hit X. I mean, it takes too long to find that little bitty arrow. We're going to start with D for default. So black is going to be my foreground color. And let's make it smaller so we can do a couple of swatches. 100% opacity, 100% flow, go across. And it goes black. If I change my paint mode from normal down to lighten, and I'm going to paint with black, I just painted across there with black. Nothing happens because it's not able to lighten. So let's change that and do darken. Smoothing, I'm going to turn off to 0. So I can scribble. If I go to multiply, it's pretty much the same thing. You'll notice in here, there's lines separating like 5 different modes at a time. So you have darken through darker color. Those are between 2 lines. Everything in there is darken. The next one down is lighten to lighter color, lighten, screen, color dodge, blah, blah, blah. Those are all lighter colors. Overlay through hard mix deals with the grays and the midtones. The difference, exclusion, subtract, divide, those are all some funky things that I'm not even going to deal with today. Color and luminosity are 2 that you can use on a regular basis that would be really cool. Color especially. If I wanted to change this black here to blue, click on blue, go from multiply to color, and what that does is paints in a color for me. However, you'll notice that as I'm painting over the black, nothing happens. Let me put some white down real quick. Normal. And we'll go back to blue with color. And as I try to paint over the white, you can see that it's not doing anything at all. Black and white will not accept color on there. If you have another color, let's go to a reddish color. Same thing. It painted the blue, but it didn't paint the white, and it won't paint black. It'll paint grays and any other tone, but it won't paint black and white. So when you're trying to change the color of something, it's not going to happen. So let's go ahead and go to Edit, Fill, 50% gray, clean slate again. Okay.
Question. You were switching between colors you'd already used. How'd you do that as a shortcut?
Actually, I just went over to the colors over here and clicked on the box for foreground color and changed my color.
I thought you were doing a shortcut for going back to blue that you'd already used blue before. Okay.
Yeah, I did actually. When I hit X, it took the background color and moved it to the foreground color.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and put red up there. And I was going to go to darken. And you can see when I paint with that same color, goes to darken, it changes the color. If I go to a darker color, let's say down there, you can see it paints it darker. But if I say, let's go to lighten, you can see it goes lighter on the gray, but it won't do anything with this light red there, but it will with the darker red there. So you can lighten things up a little bit that are too dark that should be lighter, and do that. Let's go to overlay. And you can see that it will go over the top a couple times. I'm at 100% each time I'm painting. But you can see when I paint again, it's adding more to it. So the overlay is adding more in there. Does that make sense? Because it doesn't to me. I'm totally confused. I'm totally confused by it. So,
Layer of paint over another.
okay, fill with 50% gray. If you want to change the shortcuts for the blend modes, you can hit Shift and the plus key, and it goes through all of them. Or you can hit the Shift minus key to go backwards.
Don't see anything.
On my color or mode setting up here in the upper left, if I hold the Shift key, I go for saturation to color, luminosity, normal, dissolve, darken, just going through like that.
Nice.
Yeah.
So that's a shortcut for doing that, or you can just go up here and do the drop down and find the one you want. I mean, just that easy. Mixer brush. This is a unique brush. So let me go to white. Before I do that, is everybody familiar with the paint bucket? I forget where it's, I think I've got it hidden somewhere because I don't use it. Paint bucket tool. It's under the gradient tool.
Yeah.
And what you do is you click the paint bucket and fill.
Mhm.
So half the time I can't remember where the paint bucket tool is. I don't need it anymore. If I want to fill, I take my foreground color that I want and I hold the Option or Alt key, hit delete, Option or Alt delete, and it fills like the paint bucket tool does. If I want to fill with the background color, Command or Control delete, fills with the background color. So you can take your paint bucket tool and throw it in the trash. You don't need it anymore. Okay, let me do a mixer brush real quick. Let's go ahead and I'm going to paint with the hard edge brush, 100% hard. And I'm going to draw a straight line with a little bit larger brush. So I'm going to click. When you click with your mouse or your Wacom tablet and nothing is happening, I'm clicking right now, nothing is happening. I check my color. My color is set to that red tone. It's not painting. If you go up to the top toolbar, you'll see that the color mode is set to soft light. Soft light's in the overlay, it's not going to work. If I go to normal, click, it works. If I hold the shift key down, click down at the bottom, it draws a straight line. You can also hold the shift key down and go straight down. You can go straight across holding shift key down, but you can't go on an angle holding the shift key. You can, however, go on an angle. If you click and then move your mouse on an angle, it will go on an angle holding the shift key down. Okay, let's go ahead and add some blue in here. Click OK. Click, hold the shift key down, click. I now have an ugly red and a pretty blue. So if I go to my mixer brush, which in your toolbar, it's in the same as the brush tools. You have brush tool, pencil, color replacement tool, and mixer brush. I've taken mine out and I've actually given it a different shortcut. I have the mixer brush and the smudge tool with the shortcut letter A, only because I use those a lot when I'm painting with the mixer brush. Let's go ahead and go to the mixer brush to start with. And I want to go to a softer edge brush. So I hit Control and I'm going to drag my hardness down to 0, make sure it's soft, good. And I'm going to drag from the left side. And what that does, it mixes colors for you. And you can go in here and just kind of drag and smudge things around a little bit and mix like you're mixing paint. I am not an artist. I don't do color painting. I don't do oil painting. I do Photoshop painting. So you can do that. Wait for it to catch up. And you can see that's what the mixer brush does. Hit Command Z a whole bunch of times. Whoops, one too far. Click, Shift. And you notice I just did that with the mixer brush. I hit Shift. After I clicked on it, I hit Shift and went that way. And what happened, I'm in the mixer brush. I wanted to be in my regular brush tool. So B for brush, click, Shift. Okay, we got it. Now we're going to try the smudge tool, which is kind of a brush as well. Make it a little bit bigger so we can see what we're doing. The smudge tool is taking the white and dragging the white across. If I start with blue, it'll drag the blue across. So you can make, with a tiny brush, you can make little tiny hairs going in, going out. So if you want to do some really fine painting and dragging, instead of the mixer brush, you'd use a smudge tool, and the smudge tool would paint using that. So if I did this, and you could smudge it a little bit and smoosh it. and play with it. That's the mixer brush and that's the smudge tool. Oops, wrong way. I wanted that. Okay. Eraser brush. I don't use the eraser very often, but here, let's put something on here and make it smaller. Now I want to erase. Go to E for eraser. One thing I just found out is if I try to erase, well, let me change that color. X, change it to red. Okay. And we'll hit Command Z to get rid of that. If I try to erase this blue right in the middle, and I hit the eraser tool, look what happens. It paints with the background color. Wait, what? I thought it was the eraser tool. Has anybody tried using the eraser tool in 2020 yet?
No.
Not lately.
Well, guess what? This is what it does. Okay. The cure for that is to go over to where your layers are. I'm going to drag it to the middle here. You'll notice that the layer is locked right now. If I click on the lock, it's now unlocked. It's layer 0. So let's move it out of the way. Take the eraser tool and erase. You have to unlock the layer. So if I go back up here and somewhere, there it is, lock layers. And then I said lock layers.
Wouldn't it be nice if it would just do it when you spoke it?
You would think. Let's add a new layer
Coming someday.
and fill it with, let's just fill it with the color. So there we go. Filled it with the color. I'm going to lock that layer. Transparency, locked. Go to my eraser tool, and it does that again. So any layer that is locked, any background layer, the eraser tool doesn't like to play.
You've got to paint over something. You had erased that spot before.
Yeah. So if I turned off the lock on layer 1, and you can see what I'm erasing here, but it's painting with, it's actually just painting with, or it's actually erasing because I turned off the lock. And the white that's showing up is the white from the bottom layer.
That's it. Okay.
So if I clear that out, goodbye, and I try to erase again, it's going to paint with red till I unlock it. Okay. Bruce, you were asking about the changing the brush in the eraser tool, and it kept going. So if I went from that brush and went to, say, a scatter brush, it would change it to the paintbrush, correct?
I have a bunch of brushes that when I click on them, they automatically say, oh, I'm a eraser brush, or I'm a
Right.
type of brush, or this type of brush, and it drives me nuts.
So what you do, like right now, if I wanted to paint with that brush, it's actually a paintbrush. I'm going to make that an eraser brush. So I'm going to go to my eraser tool, E for eraser. You have to click on the tool first. Then hit on the PC, on the Mac, it's Command Option. On the PC, it's Control Alt. Go up to that brush, click on it, and you see it just turned the brush to red on my toolbar right here. that means it's working out of what it normally is. So if I go here and try to erase, it is now erasing as it goes. So you can make any brush an eraser brush by hitting Command Option and then click on the brush, or Control Alt and click on the brush.
Okay, so basically then you can check, if you start on a particular type of brush, do the Control Alt and then click on the brush that you want to change. It'll change to whatever that other brush was.
Right. So let's say, okay, I'm in the paintbrush now, and I can paint with that because it's always a paintbrush. But if I wanted to use it as a smudge tool, it disappears. It goes, when I click on smudge tool, the smudge is now just a circle. So to make that brush come back, I click on the smudge tool, Command Option or Control Alt, find that splatter brush, click on it again, and it's now a smudge. A weird smudge, but it's a smudge.
Great, thank you.
Okay. And I had the hardest time getting that to work for me the first couple times I did it. And I had to call Irene Bowers, who walked me through it again, because I had the notes from Sandra's class, because she taught us how to do that. And it just didn't work for me. And I was trying to do the eraser brush, but I was on the background. And that didn't work on the background because it was locked. So I went to 2019 and it worked on 2019, but not 2020. And I was like going crazy. And if you don't go crazy using Photoshop, you're not doing it right.
That's right.
Right, yes.
Ay, ay, ay.
Reading about that. Going crazy.
Okay. Unclock, blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, wow. I got a lot of stuff to cover still. This is going to be like a 3-part series on brushes, I think.
Quick question on what we just did. Is there a way to reset a brush back to its normal?
Yes, just go to brush. Like I have it in smudge tool right now. If I hit B for brush, it automatically goes back to where it came from. It's now my spatter brush again.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions?
How do you remember all these shortcuts?
Doing it a lot.
Practice, practice, practice.
Thank you. Some of the shortcuts are very simple. B for brush. Okay, what we'll do, we'll go through the shortcuts real quick. The move tool, V for move. So that one's kind of, the V is in the move tool, V. Marquee tool, M for marquee. The lasso tool, L for lasso. You'll notice that there's 2 tools in the lasso tool. You got the lasso tool, polygonal tool. Actually, there's several in there. If you want to go between them, you hit the Shift L, and it will go between all the different lasso tools. The next one down is the magic wand tool, which is W for wand. Makes it easy, but there's 3 in there: quick selection, object selection, and magic wand. Again, right now it's set to the object selection tool. If I hold Shift W, it goes to the magic wand. Shift W again will go to quick select tool. So each of these tools, if you hold the Shift key down and there's multiples in there, and the way to know there's multiples is when you see a little triangle off the bottom of them, there's multiple tools inside that one tool. So if you click on the quick selection tool and you see a little down arrow or a little triangle, that will show you there's multiples in there. Okay, next one down is the crop tool. You have crop and perspective crop. Perspective crop is a totally different program we'll get into some other time. Artboard or frame, the frame tool. I've never used the frame tool, which is K. Eyedropper tool. I for eyedropper. Makes sense, right? Inside of there's the count tool, the ruler tool, color sampler tool, eyedropper tool. You don't need the eyedropper anymore. All you have to do is hit B for brush, hold the option key, and it brings up your eyedropper. Click and changes your color. My mixer brush and my smudge tool, I moved separately, so that's something totally different, and I renamed them to A. So as I'm painting with B for brush, then I go to A for my smudge tool or Shift A for my mixer brush, and then I mix things up. And you can do all kinds of weird stuff with that. Next one down is the clone stamp. Stamp tool, S. And also in there you have the pattern stamp tool. I have never used the pattern stamp tool. Whoever has a dog, if you can mute yourself real quick, I'd appreciate it. Next one, whoa. Next one down, history brush. One of the things about the history brush, you cannot, I don't want the clone stamp. I want the history brush. You can't use the history brush if you have cropped your image. I guess you can if you go back up to history and go back a couple steps, click on a step to make the history brush, and then you can go ahead and paint with the history brush after that and fix whatever it is. But once you change the history brush, or once you change like a crop or something on your image, the history brush doesn't work. And you also have the art history brush, which is like Bizarro. You go in the art history and it does some bizarre stuff to it to make it like a Monet painting, and then you can go in and change it after that. Next one down, G for gradient. Oh, by the way, the history brush and the art history brush are Y. History ends in Y, so Y. Gradient tool, G for gradient. That one's really cool. I mean, you can do all kinds of cool stuff. We don't want to get into gradient tool, never mind. G for gradient. Sharpen tool actually does not have a keyboard shortcut assigned to it. So no big deal. Dodge and burn is O. Sometimes it's just easier to go to O, or just go to the dodge and burn tool rather than O, but I actually know the keyboard shortcut, so I do use the keyboard shortcut for that, which is O. The next one down is custom shape tool, which is U, which I don't know how it became U, but it is. You can do
in custom.
U, CU is custom.
CU.
There you go. There you go. CU is custom. So you can add a custom shape, and you can make it a shape, you can make it a path, or you can make it pixels. So you can do all kinds of cool stuff. And in the custom shapes, it's kind of like a brush. You go up and you can add different things. It's really cool. And that's a tool all by itself to use. You've got the hand tool, H for hand. And the hand tool basically is the same as hitting the space bar. You don't need the hand tool anymore. Hit the space bar and drag it around where you want it. Or click on hand and drag it around, then go click on the tool you want. If you're on the hand tool and you want the brush tool, there's a shortcut for, I think it's I'm trying to remember because I haven't used it in so long. Never mind. I don't remember the shortcut. There's a way where you can go from one to the other and only hold it for a little while. So, okay. Z for zoom. Pretty common sense, right? Z for zoom. Down below, you have the colors. So D for default, X to exchange them, quick mask tool, Q for quick mask. And last but not least, the one I skipped over, which is the healing brush. You have the spot healing brush, the healing brush, patch tool, content aware move tool, and the red eye tool. Don't even bother using the red eye tool. It sucks. But spot healing brush, Dave Cross said the way to remember healing brush for J is J for Jesus. Jesus, I'm healed. And that's how you remember the healing brush. That's not mine. That's Dave Cross. All letters should go to him. This is not based on the editorial content of this station. So those are the basic keyboard shortcuts for the tools. So if I turned off my toolbar, which I could get away with probably not using a toolbar because I know the keyboard shortcut. Shea Stadium, third base.
For a pitching change.
In fact, the game's being played right now, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's 1-0 Dodgers.
The one that refused to play last night. Never mind. I'm not getting into that.
Let it go.
I'm trying. Next week, we'll get into making a brush from scratch. We're going to make our own brush, and we'll get into the brush tools, what some of these brush tools are. And there's some pretty cool stuff that you can do with this. And then you can also set your brush up so that it, you can record a brush with all the stuff you want in it, including color, and then set it into your toolbar. When I was doing this, I was preparing and I went up to my brushes and my entire brush set was missing. In fact, some of my brushes are still missing. And we'll talk about making groups so you can have general brushes. I have my set of Collins brushes. These are the ones that I use on a regular basis. So we'll talk about making groups, make your own logo, do all that kind of cool stuff next Tuesday. So any questions on what we covered today?
Sounds good, Mike.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, very helpful. Really appreciate it.
That was zooming through really fast. Yes.
Tools 101.
Tools 101.
I have a quick question.
I have a quick answer.
Good. You know, if you know that a brush is number 50 or 26 or whatever, why I can't find a way to just put that in a search and come up with that number.
Okay, let's go into Collins brushes. I have Collins logo, which is 397. Collins logo.
Michael, share your screen with us again.
You need to say please. Don't just order me around.
Do it now.
We're just looking at your mug at this point.
I humbly apologize. Okay, Photoshop.
There we go.
Okay. You can see my brushes up here. I have a Collins logo that says 397. I have a Collins logo that says 1094. So I'm going to start with 397. Click. That's brush number 397. Collins logo 1094. The numbers are the pixel size of the brush. So that's when it was saved, that is the number of the size. So this one is, what did I say, 1094 pixels. And this one was 397 pixels. So that's where the numbers come in. You should be able to title your brush, or they should be titled as well, not just, so get rid of brush tip. It says powder 1, Collins logo. So if I turn off brush name, it won't go away. Brush stroke, brush name. Now it just shows you the stroke, and you can do brush tip only or brush tip and stroke. I normally don't have my brush stroke in there because it just shows me what it does if I drag it along. So does that answer the question? What
Well,
the number is?
I do understand that, but there is no easy way to, unless you make a group and you find and put your brushes in there, there's no easy way to go through the 100-some brushes that I have to get to that one brush that I want.
You only have 100 and some?
Well, so there's no search mechanism, is that right?
Not that I'm aware of,
Okay,
but I will search to see if there's a search mechanism.
okay. Is
Any
there
other
a favorites that you can make, like favorites, or you just like have label a group as my favorites?
You can do that.
Okay.
And
And
we'll
you'll
show
show
you.
us how to do that next week.
I will show you that next week. Just like the soap operas. Next on Young and the Restless.
Yes.
Next in Photoshop Party. Cool. So next week we'll get into that. We may end up going a third day on brushes because there's so much there, and I only know that much about it. So
Only 3 days worth?
this is about 3 days worth.
Okay, so you know 3 days worth.
Right. Sandra Pierce can give you a full week on brushes. So
Will we meet on Tuesday or Thursday?
that'll be on Tuesday. Tuesday at 1 o'clock Pacific, 4 o'clock Eastern. But wait, don't call now. Any other questions? Wake up, Laura.
I have one other quick question.
Okay.
Christy Elias did a compositing photo party, but I don't find that on the list of things that I can watch again. Not going to happen, huh?
Nope.
Christy asked me not to record it, so I respected her wishes. She makes a lot of good money teaching, and so she was generous enough to do a free program for us, but asked for it not to be recorded.
All her other free programs that she's done for other organizations have not been recorded as well.
However, Professional Photographers of California West Coast School will be putting on, oh, she's not part of West Coast School this year.
Part of West Coast School.
Oh, darn.
Nope.
No.
Go fish.
But go fish. West Coast School will be putting on instructors showing a good portion of their class as a teacher to West Coast School after Texas School has done their pandemic classes,
Which are all next week.
which are next week. So we're going to be talking to our West Coast School instructors, and we're going to be putting those West Coast School and PPC will be doing that. That won't be a Photoshop party. That'll actually probably be an evening program with the instructors. And they probably will not be recorded as well.
Correct.
So, okay, I'm going to click unrecord, stop recording.